Name is Jakai. I have my on my Switch account. I have the battle pass. My favorite skin is Condor because my favorite color is blue.
So it's time to crown another trio, baby. That's right, it's Muzz, it's Looter, it's Speedy, and Freeze 325 points.
Yeah, these guys were incredibly consistent. You know, they weren't in that first place slot after the first day, but you know what, these guys have ended up being so consistent overall. They had 5 games out of the 12 where they placed in the top 3, and remember that top 3 is where the big format kind of gets in. That's where the big placement points are. And so an average placement was 6.5 across 12 games was really impressive from them. And you know, Muzz's placements overall have been so good. There's been barely any tournaments, be it a solo cash cup, trio cash cup, FNCS qualifier, anything that he's been out of the top 5. So like, this is like a very well-deserved first place from this team. You know, in second we had Sync, Sorif, and Volks. You know, they were in that lead coming out of the first day as well, but unfortunately they played so good. And you know, Sync, I spoke to him earlier, it's the second time in a row that he's come second in an FNCS, so he's obviously not too happy about it, but over the time he's qualified through, because remember the top 3 teams as well. So you know what, he's now feeling much more confident that going into that next season he can take that first place slot.
Yeah, shout out to Muzz Looter, man. These guys put in some work and it paid off. Nothing less than top 8 coming into that second day. Take a look there on your screens. In 6th place, Jinx, Alec, and Worthy. They had a bit of a rough day one, right? They came back and they made something of it, right? They did what they could in day 2, and it was enough to push them into top 6. Good stuff from these guys, and I know for certain they're going to want to come back next season and try reclaim that sort of title, right? Become, you know, the winners of the ISA Champions. And even looking at the leaderboard there, you saw such fine margins, man. Just a couple points separating a lot of these teams, and you know, so much money on the line. You don't want to be that team that thinks, oh, if only we did this, we could have just maybe moved up in the standings a bit. So congrats to all the players who participated. Great stuff from the OC region.
That's right, and now we shift our attention back here to Europe. We have 6 matches here ahead of us, and another trio waiting to be crowned the FNCS champions. We got to recap what happened yesterday, gentlemen. Just to kind of set the stage, we have representation from every single FNCS previous to this one. Andalek, Stompy, Wakey, Tayson, Janice, all players returning, looking to claim the title once again.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen right now our leaderboard's looking very nice. In second, we kind of see Benji's team along with Mats on Amplify. They performed very well yesterday, picking up a massive victory royale from the low ground that we've just saw there, and that was in game 2. But in the top of our leaderboards currently, you know, we've got Teak, Cammy, and Seti as well going in, and these guys have been very consistent. They started a little bit slow, but coming into the last 3 games, they ended up being 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. And like I already mentioned a couple times, 3rd is where the big placement points start coming in, so the huge amount of placement points. As you can see, they are in the top of that leaderboard. A little bit less eliminations, and that's their typical play style. You know, they are those guys who are going to be getting that top placement and putting themselves up in the leaderboard, but not necessarily fragging out as hard.
Yeah, great stuff all around, right? I said at the top of the show, exactly what we expected, right? All of the top names sort of in the finals, really showing up, right? Taking a look at some of the players here who, you know, maybe you'd expect to see a bit higher up. Andalex, Snazy, Squeeze, iDrop, Tayson, Mr. Savage. These are 2 really strong trios who, you know, sort of didn't start off the way they would have expected to yesterday. And, you know, now is the opportunity. There is day 2 for a reason. You have a chance now to sort of make up for it over the course of the next 6 games. And we know it's possible, because just like we saw with OCE, where we saw Jinx, Worthy, and Alex trio sort of have a bad day 1 and make up for it in day 2, those trios have the potential to do that today.
Yeah, and any teams you're seeing right here, these are not out of the running by any means. Last season, Flick, Anas, and Tom's HD were in the 15th slot coming into the second day. So they were currently where Nico is right now, and they ended the day in 3rd. So anything can really happen in these leaderboards right now, you know, and I think any of these teams who are, you know, they're not currently in the top 10, it's a new day. Hopefully they've reset their mentality, they've slowed things down, they've assessed their weaknesses, and maybe changed up their game plan a little bit. Nothing too major. You don't want to be starting anything new in the second day of the finals. Might not be the time to employ some new strategies, but hopefully they've kind of figured out the mistakes. They come in with a fresh mind, and they're feeling good for today, confident, because anything can happen, and these guys can definitely climb back up the leaderboards.
I mean, boys, the tension is in the air. You could farm this tension with a pickaxe for materials. I guarantee it. Now, of course, we know we like to take a look at predictions and kind of talk through which trios we think could be the next FNCS Trios champions. Now, I think what's super interesting here is this is the first time that Reese and Lemon have actually aligned on a trio. Reese, why is this?
Because our brains are so big. That's why. Our brains are incredibly massive right now. But you know what? It seems like our picks third place when we looked at the leaderboards. And, you know, Hen, Janus, and Chapix, these guys have been popping off. We've seen Hen in particular hit some absolutely beautiful snipes out of the gate. But, you know, at the top of the day, for me in particular, I picked these guys because there hasn't been a single tournament they've played that they haven't placed outside of the top 5. So if we're going for a prediction for number 1, these guys have been as consistent as it gets. So definitely a top team and showing up to date already in the finals in day 1. And I'm sure they'll do exactly the same going into today.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that can stop these guys, right? Regardless of what zone pools where, these guys seemingly are able to perform, and I definitely expect them to continue to do that over the course of the 6 games today. Shio's gone with Flick and Naston Thomas, an incredibly strong pick. These guys are sitting in 4th place right now. We saw what they could do in heats, right? They completely dominated their heat, and they're looking to try maybe sort of have a massive comeback like the way they did last season, right? Last season's trios, you know, came into day 2 sitting in 15th place. They were able to turn things around and finished in 3rd. So they're going to be looking to try and, you know, they're starting from a higher up position this time coming into day 2, right? And hopefully maybe they can sort of turn things around, push themselves, and really be the team to pull away and take the lead. Sancho's gone with iDrop, Tayson, and Mr. Savage. One of the trios who is a top trio. Do not get me wrong. Do not be deceived by the fact that these guys, you know, aren't sitting in the top 5. These guys are a top trio. They had a rough day yesterday. You know, it's going to be time for them to sort of pull something out of nowhere, right? They can't blame zones. They can't blame, you know, sort of things out of their control. They've just got to be one of these trios who, regardless of what happens, they're going to be able to perform. And I do believe they have the ability to do that.
This is kind of like an anime in a lot of ways, right? You look across and you're like, oh, here's the main character of the story, I think, or maybe that's the main character. But in every shadow that is cast, some new enemy, some new trio could rise up and say, listen, you forgot about us. Now, I'm very excited coming into the day because